Day-to-day life. Get up in the morning. First place I go to is my coffee machine. Turn coffee on. Get the tea squared away. Gotta get the smile right. And I like to be polished. Even when I was in construction and to construction management, I always had this gotta be polished. And I think I get that from a military background. You know, my dad being in the military 23 years. I was that stuck in me, in my soul, really. So, not big on breakfast. Coffee's my breakfast till about 11, and off to work. You know, making sure my daughter's got everything that she needs before she goes to school. She's pretty much independent, which is a good thing. She learned at a very young age to be independent, so that really helps a lot. I've always been passionate about cars and in general, classic cars that were big, long, and low to the ground. Cruising down the boulevard really, really slow and low, and being able to make those adjustments at a flip of the switch. So I was hooked at a very, very, very young age. So probably close to 15 years ago, I made a promise to her. She wanted a house built. So at the time, I had a 62 Chevy Impala, two-door hardtop. And we wanted a house built, and we needed a down payment. Yes, I sold the 62 Impala, and we used that money for the down payment. Got the house. Again, it was more important than anything else. Wanted the house. It was a part of the plan. The car had to go. She says, "Hey, thank you. We did it. We did this together. We got the house. So we're gonna get you your motorcycle." Starting to look at Harley Davidsons and looking at a specific style. I was always infatuated with the old nostalgic look, the old Harley Davidson panhead, knucklehead. It was one of those things that's always got my attention. When I heard the sound of a Harley Davidson, I had to stop and take a look, you know, because it always got my attention. Just no matter where I was when I was doing it. So her and I, we started going to the dealership, looking at what style we thought we'd want, and I wanted to include her in that. So I was more into looking at a bigger touring bike than a soft tail or a smaller bike, because I wanted her with me. I wanted her to feel what I felt, you know. And so I kind of wanted to put that out of sight, out of mind, because we just moved into our house. We just moved into our new house, and I came home one night, and she was complaining about an issue she had with her car, and it was in the garage, and she wanted me to go look at what was going on with her car. And to my surprise, when I went in there, sitting in the garage was my first Harley Davidson. Yeah, 2006 Heritage Softail Classic, sitting right next to her perfect car, because there was nothing wrong with it. 2006, into our brand new beautiful home, and months after that had a brand new Harley Davidson. And March 23rd of 2007, she passes away of a brain aneurysm, and she never got a chance to ride with me on my Harley. So, part of my dream was taken from me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't figure all this out on my own. So now I had to figure out what I was going to do on my own. But family and friends came together, they helped me through it. So I can look back now and remember the situations that I was in, making decisions on my own, taking time off for the sick kids, and that whole thing, when I was just not used to that. I never did that. She did it, so you take things for granted. Denise was the glue to her family. She was the glue to my family. Believe it or not, after all this time, it's been 12 years, but believe it or not, after all this time, there's not a week that doesn't go by. What was she like, And I get asked that a lot from Angie. And, hey, what was she like in these situations? Or did she like to dance? Did she like to cook? Did she like spicy foods? Those sort of things. And she was so old school and love lowriders. Her brother, her family, they've all kind of grew up in the same neighborhoods that I grew up in, and it was of the time. If you didn't have a lowrider, you just weren't in. You just weren't. And she was down. That was her thing. And so family oriented. Where we grew up in a small neighborhood in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And at the time, early 80s, lowriding was really, really big back then. And everywhere you looked, there was a lowrider going down the street, or someone in their driveway working on their lowrider. And I got introduced, into the lowriding culture back when I was a freshman in high school, around that time frame, 84. I was hooked. I did everything that I could when I got a job to save up my money to buy a car. It had to be a Chevrolet, had to be a two-door, it had to be something that I can cut the springs on or take the springs out and lower it to the ground. Didn't care how rough it rode. It didn't even matter. I did, and one of my role models back then had a 1971 Monte Carlo. It had 13-inch wheels on it. Hydraulics was lifted front and back, side to side, and he'd pick me up every Friday and every Saturday night. We cruised the avenue, and so that went on for a few years, and then it was, just like anything else. You lose touch with your friends, and people move on, things happen, things change. One of my first cars that I built into a lowrider was a 1976 Chevy Monte Carlo. Now, I didn't have any money back then, but I got my Monte Carlo. I lowered it, put some wheels on it, and I think it was one of many that had multi-color panels on it back in the day, so it's always been in me. I've always had the passion for cars and motorcycles. I started getting bored. I started to get the itch. I started doing some research, looking on the internet at lowriders, and I got the fever back. So I decided about 4 years ago to look for a project. I wanted to build a car, and I wanted to build first year Monte Carlo. So I ended up finding one in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and it happened to be my hometown. Found a pretty good canvas. 4 years later, it's turned into quite a piece. It's one of those things that you've really got to make a commitment and sacrifice to do a build or a restoration like that. It doesn't come easy. None of it does. It's an award-winning car, placed at every event that I take it to. It's got a lot of appeal and eye candy. Again, it's a long body, A-body car that is desired in the lowrider community. For me to show her and express things to her in a way that, you know, you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to figure it out all by yourself. You're never alone. Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with the good resources, or find them, because being alone sucks. And I never want that for her. So, in the sense, we've grown together in the last 4 years, and I've created someone that's thinking about things now. I created a young person. Angelina's not one to dwell on something she can't figure out. She's gonna figure it out, and make it happen. So watch out for that one. I'm proud of you. Very proud of you. You've gone through so much. Mm-hmm. But she knows that. With all my passions and all my dreams and hobbies and what I enjoy, there's a message behind all that stuff. I'm using them to my advantage, to teach you, to show you that you can accomplish your dreams. You can. So, every time you see me in the garage, every time you see me struggling, every time you see me stuck and wanting to give up, I didn't give up because there was something I needed you to see. There's something I needed you to believe. Don't give up. Don't build a lowrider. They're a pain in the ass.